right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Jesse Lee Falls podcast. I'm actually really excited about today's topic. We're going to discuss the big five personality types. And I was actually, um, I just met up with a social media manager yesterday, and I hired her. Her name is Katie Camberg. And um, we were, as I was giving her the contract and the media and everything she needs to build um, my social media pages, because about 4 months ago, I think 4 months ago, I was locked out of my Facebook page, and I kind of looked at it as basically a blessing in disguise because of how pathological Facebook and social media is. Um, it's like they decided to create a community of complainers, and there's if you participate in Facebook and you're doing it in a social way and you're not doing it from a business standpoint, you can kind of see how pathological it is. Because I would say that there's a super small minority of people on Facebook who are actually problem solvers. And I would say that the majority of people who are participating on Facebook are actually problem inducers, problem creators, just the faceless masses that they're just not solution based people. So what I did was because I've got some new music videos coming out, and we actually just made a movie, and that movie is going to be released at the beginning of summer, um, end of spring, beginning of summer. But basically, I'm obviously trying to gain subscribers. Like who isn't? Um, but the I've been wanting to basically utilize social media in a way that is only for business. So and I've been actually looking to hire somebody to delegate that stuff to, because of how much I don't enjoy it. But I also know that it is somewhat necessary. It's necessary. It helps with marketing. It helps with getting yourself out there. But I'm not good at it, and I don't like it. So that's one of those things where musicians, there's a lot of things that musicians don't like to do. And if you're one of those musicians that you're like, hey, I just want to focus on my art, um, you can do that to a degree, but to only be focusing on your art is actually completely unrealistic. And it also says something about your business skills. It says that you don't have any. So and that you probably look at business like a bad word. You probably look at it as, business means greed, and business means corruption, and business means uh, power moves and power agendas, and it's all about power because you bought into the postmodernist narrative that life and everything motivating life is about gaining power. Anyways, if you are one of those people, then yeah, business is going to be a bad word to you. And you think that you can just do art and then you can somehow monetize on that art, and like people are just going to flock to you. Well, it's not only unrealistic, but it's immature, it's stupid. You might want to check your greed, because that is actually that's what that is. It's just showing you have a level of greed that you like to cover up as like virtue or something. But really, what it is that you don't want to. You want to advocate your responsibilities. Now, if you're somebody that's like that and you know that about yourself, there's not a lot I can say for you. But then there's the other type of people, um, who we work hard, we do everything ourselves, and at some point you're gonna find that there are some things that you're not good at. And that not only are you not good at, but you're not interested in. If you're going to be a business minded person, then you have to go, okay, I'm not good at this and I don't want to do this. But a good manager knows how to delegate responsibility, right? So that's what I did. I'm very lucky that I found Katie and that she pretty much does this for a living. And I'm super stoked because I do need that marketing ability. And she's really good at what she does. And when I was talking to her yesterday, we had gotten into this discussion about artists, and I had brought up to her the big 5 personality traits and why those are so important to know about, because if you're going to be dealing with people, you need to know how to deal with those people. You have to be able to spot personality traits so that way you can hire appropriately and you can place people appropriately due to their strengths. And you can also see where their weaknesses are. And she was sharing a story with me because I was telling her that musicians and artists tend to be low in conscientiousness. And for a lot of you guys, when you hear that, you hear conscientiousness, like you mistake the word conscientiousness for like you're conscientious, or you're mindful and thoughtful of others. That's not actually what conscientiousness is. That's actually probably more like agreeableness. So she was telling me a story about how she's working with a company. She's working with a group right now. And the group had become a little bit frustrated with a new member, because this new member came into the group like an investor, and when it came to them making posts or tagging people, trying to get their content to go as far as possible, because it's like, hey, everybody's these people came in here and they're invested in it, so okay, everybody's going to help push this thing. Well, this one specific person told everybody right out of the gate, don't tag me in any of your posts unless it has to do with me. That's right out of the gate. That's somebody who's like blatantly narcissistic to the group and to the team. Somebody that doesn't know anything about being a team player at all. And when they had confronted this person, basically what happened was this person went irate on them, which is, that's typical. That movie Ray, there's a great quote. His mom says to him, scratch a liar, find a thief. That's exactly what you do. You stand up for yourself against these people and watch them lose their damn minds. And you know what this person started doing? Instantly came at them with like physical threats. So it's a really good example of why you guys need to know about the big 5 personality traits. Because if they would have been able to see that narcissistic attitude right out of the gate and called it right out, they wouldn't have put themselves in a situation where now they've got some difficult, crazy asshole threatening them. Because they could have put the fire out before there was a fire. So this is really important to me, because if you guys want to know why your bands aren't working and why you can't get along with your players and why certain people just have attitude problems and blah, 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 this is like a roadmap to success for you guys to know how to deal with people and how and who you're dealing with, and how to recognize your personality traits so that you can start understanding where your strengths and where your weaknesses are. Because the cool thing about the personality traits is that once you're aware of what type of personality, where you land in these big five traits, you can start seeing where your strengths and weaknesses are, and so you can actually work on things. And I'm going to use myself as a prime example on this, because it's going to be really fun. Okay, so speaking of, I need to go ahead and throw a shout out. The reason why I actually know about these is because I've done a lot of studying. I listened to a lot of Jordan Peterson, you guys, and I know that that name is probably like taboo to some people, but I give a shit. This dude is just absolutely brilliant. So when I started understanding these big five personality traits, I was able to, be able to identify my own, where I need work. Okay. And that's why I wanted to do this, because it's been super helpful to me. I think it's going to be super helpful to you guys. It's going to shine light. It's going to give you a way deeper perspective on how to deal with human nature and human condition, and what personalities you're dealing with. Okay, so here's the big five. Okay, so we've got conscientiousness. Okay, and I'm not doing these in order. Okay, I'm just spitting them out. So there's conscientiousness, there's extroversion, there's agreeableness, there's neuroticism, and there's openness. Okay, so with each one of these personality traits, there's like two subcategories that are basically the defining principles of that personality trait. So that's what we're going to go over right now. So with conscientiousness, you've got orderliness and you've got dutifulness, which just means that you're a hard worker. That if you're a hard worker and you obligate yourself to work. And orderliness. Now, the thing about the personality traits is that it's not so cut and dry that you're just conscientious, because like with me, for example, you can actually vary in those two subcategories. For instance, I'm extremely hardworking when I'm passionate about what I'm doing. Like, I have to be extremely into what I'm doing. Like, I don't go out and just do hard work for the sake of doing hard work. I don't believe in busy work. I don't believe in appearing to be busy. When I go out and do a job, I move with intense purpose and reason. And I work fast, because I don't work on an hourly rate. I stopped doing hourly rates a long time ago, because that's not a way to make money in my eyes. I work really fast and I work really well, and what I do, like with roofing and construction, is high value. So I don't waste my time with busy work. And on the orderliness front, I'm an artist, so I'm not very orderly. I'm actually kind of you can ask my roommate, I'm kind of a slob. That's a lie. It's not kind of. So I can work pretty well in messy, unorganized situations. I can There's a certain amount of me I work pretty well in chaos. So like just my surroundings can be kind of messy, but it doesn't interfere with what I'm doing because I'm pretty purpose driven. So I'm not really looking around at my surroundings. My surroundings don't have a psychological effect on me. So if you are super high in conscientiousness, you'll be tilted towards orderliness and being hardworking. And the thing about being conscious, you might think, oh, well, those are really good things to be, until you pathologize them. So any one of these psychological attributes can be pathologized. So if you're too orderly and you're too hardworking, then you become a bit tyrannical to everybody around you, because it's like this contrast of, look how orderly you are, look how unorderly everybody else is. And the thing about orderliness is that it's actually tied to a disgust mechanism. So people who are orderly are actually disgusted. They're extremely disgusted by people, by the way people are. Okay? So there's a that can turn into a tyrannical, a tyrannical agenda when you're too orderly. OCD. OCD is a perfect example of being too orderly. And Peterson even made a really good point. He had a good example of this. It's like when you walk into somebody's house and the vacuum lines are like perfect. And even when you're standing in their house, they treat you like, I don't want you in my house. Like you're the chaos, So, I've dealt with people that were extremely high in conscientiousness. My ex-wife, extremely high in conscientiousness, so much so that she doesn't tyrannize everybody around. She doesn't just tyrannize everybody around her. She tyrannizes herself. So she won't allow herself to have a day off, and she'll come up with all kinds of justifications why she can't. And they used to drive me nuts when we were together because I like to watch movies, and when I watch movies, I'm not just watching a movie. I'm like in film school. I mean, I'm like watching every aspect of the movie. I'm looking at things. I'm looking for things. I'm looking at cinematography. I'm looking at the editing. A really good example of that is like Man on Fire with Denzel Washington. You guys watch that movie again. There's some really cool editing and cinematography in that, man. It's like when there's like these shooting scenes and like things get like blurry. It's really cool. But anyways, so that's what I do. I want to nerd out, and I want to enjoy that movie with somebody. And my ex-wife, she would just notoriously, she couldn't sit down and watch the movie. There, heaven forbid, there might have been a dish in the sink that she didn't wash. So to me, that's really annoying. That's somewhere along the line, it's like we really started to drift apart because of our personality traits. And if I would have known that about her, I probably wouldn't have married her. See what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of bullshit that we can avoid with other people if we understand the personality traits. We can avoid getting ourselves into shitty situations with shitty people. And if I would have understood the personality traits before I married her, I would have been able to kind of see, as we get older, she's probably going to become more and more conscientious. She's probably going to double down and triple down on this. And it got to a point where it's like, yeah, she just annoyed me. She just flat freaking annoyed me. Because I'm open. And I, because I'm an artist, I like ideas, and I like talking about ideas, talking about new ideas, and talking about and having new experiences to some degree. Um, and she was pretty much like more introverted, who was trying to be extrovert, but just didn't come off very natural. She had a very succinct way of alienating people, like a goddamn clinical surgeon of annoyance. So, um, so that's the conscientious personality trait. Okay, guys. So what did we learn? We got orderliness and we got dutifulness. Okay. So for me, I'm an artist. I'm a musician. And I tend to fall into, hold on. Because I'm a musician and an artist, there's quite a few of these personality traits that I'm going to go over with you to show you how they line up with an artist. Okay, so I'm going to use myself as an example. So I'm going to get back to the main five. So we've got conscientiousness, we've got extroversion, we've got agreeableness, we've got neuroticism, and we've got openness. Okay, so I would say that I am high in openness because the two subcategories of openness are intellect or IQ and creativity. Okay, so the creativity part is under openness. Something that's very interesting about the openness trait is that the openness trait has to do with being an entrepreneur as well as being an artist. And there's also the category of intellect. And the reason why intellect, I think the reason why intellect is correlated with creativity is because intellect has nothing to do with being like, having like, being able to remember knowledge. It doesn't really have anything to do with memory. Actually, it has nothing to do with memory. It has to do with problem solving. That's where IQ comes from. IQ comes from being a good problem solver. And the data shows that when it comes to intellect, for you to actually be successful with any type of creative endeavor, the data shows that you have to have an IQ of about 120. The average IQ is 100. So that pisses people off right out of the gate because most people are average. That's the bottom line. That's why it's so hard to monetize any kind of creative endeavor, because you actually have to have some intellect. You actually have to have a certain number of IQ. And IQ has to do with problem solving. So if you're not a good problem solver, and you can see in your own life that I'm not much of a problem solver, then you might need to understand where you sit. This isn't just about knowing where our strengths are, it's about knowing where our weaknesses are. So I'm high in openness because I love ideas. I drive my frickin' roommate nuts because I love talking about philosophy. I love talking about deep things. I love talking about meaning. I love talking about, the underlying meaning of things. And that drives people just batty. Just fucking annoys people. I don't really care. I don't really care because you know what? It's fun for me. It's fun for me. And I think maybe there might be a part of me that maybe kind of enjoys watching people squirm a little bit. I don't know. It's just, I think it's I think that there's something funny about how uncomfortable you can make somebody when you're talking about something deep. I think it just goes to show you how fucking shallow people are, you know. So, if you are in high in openness, and you think that you do have a sufficient, intellectual quotient, and that you are sufficiently creative, then you need to understand something. You're not just an artist, you're actually an entrepreneur. And this is what's so cool about entrepreneurs. People think being an entrepreneur means, oh, you're hard working. Okay, there's an element to that. But actually, this is a lot of times what you'll see is that the entrepreneur is the creative. He's the big idea person. He or she is the big idea person. And entrepreneurs, or people who are high in openness, they can create businesses, but they usually are pretty bad at running businesses. And this flips us back over to the conscientious trait, because if you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to start a business, yes, you do have to have some conscientiousness. You cannot be trying to just advocate your responsibility. Stop. Don't be an artist who thinks that you can just not be responsible for doing things and pushing your own thing. Like, dude, nobody cares about you. Nobody wants to help you. There is nobody out there that wants to help you. Everybody wants to help themselves. So you got to get over that whole, like, if you're doing things because you need other people's help, you're gonna have a hard road. Because you have to learn. You have to learn how to do things that you don't want to do. Okay? So that's also that creative part, is like, you're going to hit hurdles and you have to be a problem solver. You have to be the one to figure it out yourself. You have to be the one to figure it out yourself. I just made a movie and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I've made some music videos. That's what made me go, oh, I could probably make a movie, like the Rob Zombie business model. I'm like, I've made enough of these music videos that I actually think I could make a movie. So, I made like 10 minutes. I created 10 minutes, and then it was really good and hilarious. And so I was like, I made 30 minutes. And then it was like, okay, well, this is a full-length episode. And I was like, I'm not good with that. Like, I didn't come this far to just make an episode. No, we're making a full-length movie. And everybody's, when they hear that, they're just like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like, nobody goes out and makes a fucking movie when they don't know what they're doing. I knew what I'm doing enough to be dangerous, and I did it. I wasn't sitting around waiting for people to help me. I busted this thing out in like 3 months. Also because I had a bunch of other, footage from the past that I was able to splice in. So I basically had, probably a third of the movie just from footage I've collected. Okay. So that's the whole thing, is like, I'm open to new experiences and new ideas. And I don't care if I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna do it anyway. And I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna get frustrated. I'm gonna have failures. And I did. I actually had a major hiccup a couple weeks ago. My computer started freezing up on me because I had too many edits. I had way too many edits, and I didn't export the movie into like one file and get it all, compressed. There were so many edits that the program started to like crash on me. It wouldn't let me make any more edits. And because it's a MacBook, I was like, hey, this shouldn't be happening. It's a MacBook. These things are really badass for the most part, even though it's old. But I figured it out through frustration. I cursed a lot, but I figured it out. You know, nobody came rushing to my aid. So that's the thing. It's like I'm open to new experiences and new ideas. And when you do that, you're entering into a world of chaos. You're entering into a world of the unknown. And if you think that you can just navigate into the unknown and it's just going to be easy peasy, it's like those are ridiculous expectations. That's ridiculous, man. Like, this stuff is hard. If you're doing hard shit, that's where the meaning is, and shit is hard. You know? And if you can't just accept the fact that, like, you chose to do something extremely fucking hard, then you're just gonna get resentful. You know? And then you're gonna start getting resentful because you don't feel like people are helping you. So, you know, none of that is good. And I've been down that road, man. I used to just slam on my band members a lot. You know, it would just get to me that, like, everybody is there to accept the gig, but nobody is trying to help book gigs. See that? You know. So, anyways, that's the openness trait. As I just open myself up and just. So, now we've got the extroversion trait. And extroversion, the extroversion just means, like, you're outgoing, right? Your introversion is you want to be away from people. That's kind of where you get your energy. And if you're extrovert, you get your energy by being around people. And extroversion has the two subcategories under extroversion are enthusiasm and assertiveness. Okay. So, I am an extrovert because I actually have both of those. I'm highly enthusiastic, which annoys people, and I'm assertive. I am a leader. I am the leader of my life. I'm the leader of my band. I am the leader of my roofing company. I go out and I do things by myself most of the time. So I'm not looking around, you know, I go out and do things even though I have nobody helping me. Okay? So that's assertiveness. I'll take the reins. Then you have the other side of extroversion, which is enthusiasm. And enthusiasm, which a lot of people don't know this, entheos, I think that's what Peterson called it, which basically means that you're possessed by the Holy Spirit. Believe it or not. To be enthusiastic, to be, you know, full of optimism, and to have a drive to advance, which is also, you know, that's why I think the assertiveness thing is connected to it, because enthusiasm gives you approach. It's positive emotion, so it gives you approach. And approach is assertiveness. It looks like, you know, you're assertive. But here's the cool thing about enthusiasm. And it's something that I noticed about me, like when I'd be at a party. So I've never done a line of Coke ever. My drug of choice was alcohol. But because I'm already enthusiastic naturally, and I'm creative, which can enthusiasm can pathologize and look like mania. When you're at a party and there's somebody who's just so overly boisterous and so, like, full of enthusiasm, it's almost annoying because they look manic. So that's the creative type. And what I noticed was I was at a party one time and everybody around me was doing coke, or what they thought was coke, because everybody at the house was bitching about how it wasn't doing anything for them. And I was just being myself. And I actually had this one chick, she just straight up looked at me and was like, how much coke have you had? And I was like, I've never even done a fucking line. And she was like, you got to be kidding me. She's like, why are you like this? Like, why are you bouncing off the walls? Like, why are you so, like, you're intense, like gaslighting me, making me feel bad that I was like enthusiastic and that I'm like, excited. I'm excitable. And this chick like gaslit me. Like, they're all trying to get high on coke and getting nowhere. And I'm the one that has more enthusiasm than the whole freaking party. So if you're really enthusiastic, you might annoy people who aren't, because, and I find this to be the case, that once I found out that enthusiasm meant that like you're basically being filled with like the good, like the like basically like you're being possessed by the Holy Spirit, that right there, it really kind of, it's like, yeah, because there's like this really great, it's just a great feeling. You just get a great feeling and you want to share. So it's not like you get a great feeling and like you're trying to hoard that feeling. You're actually trying to share that feeling with others, trying to make other people feel good too. And then you get gaslit for it. You get punished for that virtue. Those are the fucking people you need to run away from. Those people are shitty. And this woman who, basically gaslit me, I mean, she's an idiot anyway. She's she's just a middle-aged woman who's still trying to act like a 19-year-old girl. And it was just hilarious that everybody around me is doing coke and they're getting nothing from it. So it's also like this super high level of ingratitude. Like they're not even grateful that they have the drug, because, I don't know. They're just bitching about it and that they're not as enthusiastic as I am. So that's enthusiasm. And that's extroversion. Okay. So if you're an extroverted person, you're probably enthusiastic and you're probably pretty assertive. That really will fall into that, musician type personality, because we play on stage. And sometimes, we're also not just extroverted, okay? Like everybody has a pretty healthy balance of extroversion and introversion. They call it, there's a term for it that, we're not just one or the other. But anyways, let me get to these last two since I'm stretching this out. The last two are neuroticism and agreeableness. Okay, so agreeableness. Let's start with that one. It's a little more pleasant. Agreeableness, the two subcategories for agreeableness are politeness and compassion. So politeness and compassion. And men tend to be less agreeable and women tend to be more agreeable. And that has to do with the nurturing. Women are nurturers, right? Women take care of kids. So you need to be a personality type that is more flexible when you're dealing with children, right? Because the kids are they're gonna screw up constantly every day. I mean, you can't be like drop kicking them like, it's WWF. You can't be punt kicking your baby because it's crying. Okay, that's why the disagreeable men have to go to work. Okay, like, don't leave the low agreeable man around the kids. He might kill them. So that's why women are wired the way that they're wired. We need them to be agreeable. So women tend to be, more full of compassion and politeness. Okay. So agreeableness is pretty interesting when it comes to musicians and artists, because if you take like the personality of a comedian, you would see that a comedian has compassion, because a comedian's job is to make people laugh and feel good. So that's actually being compassionate. I like making people laugh, right? But comedians are also low in politeness, right? They say the shit you're not supposed to say to get a rise. Okay? So they're low in politeness. And I think that that's kind of a really healthy, almost like a healthy place to be. If you are too agreeable, you will get walked on. And I'm saying this, specifically. I guess I'm kind of like talking to some of the men out there who, if you're trying to run your band and you're trying to run it like you're going to be agreeable and that you're going to be compassionate to everybody's feelings and that you're going to always be polite, you could probably see this is why you're not getting anywhere with your band or your band members. And maybe it explains why you're being walked on, because men have to be a little bit more low in agreeableness, because that's actually how we keep predators away. So as a man, if you're too agreeable, well, I don't know, that's something you need to work on. You need to and this is actually a really great thing that I learned from Peterson, which was if you want to work on it, you have to start learning how to say no to people. So start practicing saying no. That's how you combat your agreeableness, because if you pathologize your agreeableness, what happens is you become passive aggressive, because you start feeling like people are walking on you and you're not sticking up for yourself. Agreeable people don't stick up for themselves. Agreeable people don't negotiate well for themselves. So if you're a musician who doesn't understand why you can't get higher paying gigs, it's because you're too afraid to ask. You're actually too afraid to ask for a dollar amount that would be able to justify that dollar amount by its value, because of your intrinsic frickin' worth, because you actually know what your intrinsic worth is. Agreeable people, I wouldn't say know or can actually examine their intrinsic worth. So if you're somebody who just is willing to take what you're offered, that means you're probably too agreeable, and you need to work on that. And you work on that by now let's do the last one. I wanted to save this one for last because it's the most negative one, which is neuroticism. And neuroticism, the two subcategories that make up neuroticism are withdrawal and volatility. So when I've had different players come through the band, I would say one thing that I look for is definitely the neuroticism part. People who are quick to be volatile. People who are quick to temper. Now here's the thing. Here's the rub, is that artists and musicians can be temperamental. I am temperamental. I hate. I'm I don't mean to be cliche, because I know, well, a lot of people hate injustice. Yeah, but I mean, I really, we all have a different definition of what injustice is these days. So I wouldn't say that like what you deem as injustice is what I deem as injustice. So I just want to clear that up, because I'm not saying that what one would deem as injustice is exactly what I would deem. I don't know what other people think injustice is. A lot of people I think their definition of injustice is them just projecting how weak they are as individuals. I think real injustice has a level of evil attached to it. And a lot of the evil these days wears a mask of virtue. So that's why I'm saying I don't think I define injustice the way that most people these days define injustice. Because a lot of people define what I think is injustice as virtue. And what they deem as virtue, I deem as injustice. So, without clarifying anything, I hope that clarifies. Volatility, being too volatile, being too quick to temper, is a problem. I am quick to temper after I've given somebody the benefit of the doubt enough times, and I've always tried to put myself in the position of the optimist of we're all here to get along. Once I start seeing that that's not reciprocated, I shit can people. Because it's not that I don't want them in my band, I don't want them in my life. So I shit can people. And I've shit canned people for a lot less than volatile attitudes. The other part of neuroticism is withdrawal. And withdrawal is definitely the opposite of being extroverted. Withdrawal is being more introverted. But withdrawal has to do with you're looking at the external world as such a negative place that you have to hide from it. And that's also another if you're hiding and you know that the intention, the reason why you're withdrawing is to hide, there's probably, you have some weaknesses and some insecurities you probably need to look at. The rub and the interesting catch-22 with the neuroticism personality trait is that artists will be somewhat introverted and introspective, and they will withdraw from society because an introvert can they regenerate, they like re-energize themselves by being alone. Something that the sigma quality has. Like we're perfectly happy just working on our crafts by ourselves. Like we're totally happy just being there. But that's not it's not really withdrawal. It's more of a I don't get a lot of energy off of other people's energies because maybe you're a little too empathic. Maybe you're too agreeable and you've got so much compassion that maybe you're an empath. And empaths actually have a hard time being in big groups because it's too much energy. There's too much energy and too many feelings and too many emotions. It's like an emotion soup or something, and it's too overwhelming for an empath. So an empath has to kind of like, go and be by themselves a lot of the time because they're so introspective. They get energy and renewal by being alone, and then that's different from actually like withdrawing. Like when you withdraw, it's because you fucked up. Like for me, my neuroticism would happen with my alcoholism. I would drink too much and then I would get extremely volatile because of all the past built up resentment that I let happen because of my agreeableness. Okay, so my agreeableness, my I'm trying to be polite to people, trying to be compassionate towards their feelings, and then what happens is you start paying attention to everybody else's feelings and you ignore yours, and then you start going, "Hey, I'm being walked on," and then that's when the monster shows up. Yeah, that's why the Incredible Hulk. And if you guys look up Gamma on the sociosexual hierarchy, Gamma is where the narcissists and the psychopaths and the resentful, neurotic, weak men of the world exist. Okay? Gamma. Incredible Hulk was affected by gamma rays. So, what was the Incredible Hulk? The Incredible Hulk was a temper tantrum throwing adult. And because he would Hulk out after people started walking on him and treating him like he was weak. So the resentment and the passive aggressiveness went full manifestation into the volatile monster that wants to just destroy. So, and which I find completely like that's not it's not a coincidence. They call them gamma rays, okay? I mean, or that they call the narcissistic psychopaths on the hierarchy gammas, okay? It literally is like the Incredible Hulk was the ultimate narcissist. He became the Hulk because he let people walk on him to a point where he became a rage monkey. And I used to let that happen a lot when I drank. And I would let, my friends and my band members know how much of a letdown they are to me. And that they show absolutely no sense of urgency, and that they're basically people who I would actually never hang out with unless we actually, but because we're in a band, that's actually the only reason why I do hang out with them, is because of music. but they're not really the personality types that I would actually hang out with or actually consider like, oh, you're a valuable person on the on the on on the outside. You know, you're actually a valuable person in the world doing things. It's like, no, you're not. Actually, none of you are. Yeah. So, the neurotic thing is not good. If you feel yourselves getting a little too withdrawn from people and you're getting volatile with people, you got a short fuse with people, it means one of two things is probably going on. One, you're immature. And this is actually from Jordan Peterson. Again, you guys, I'm actually repeating what Jordan Peterson has taught millions. The only reason why I'm saying it again or repeating it is because it's truth. It's just truth, and it's gonna. I want to actually help people. I actually want to help musicians and artists, like, not get resentful, so that they don't get murderous towards others or themselves. You know, because that's the one thing about artists. If we get murderous, we'll take it out on ourselves first. You know, yeah. Because there's never been a musician who's ever killed themselves ever. So if you start feeling like you're getting a short fuse with people around you, one of two things is happening. You're immature and you won't stick up for yourself, or somebody actually is bullying you and you have to speak up and stand up for yourself. That's it. Artists, creators, we're going to always hit obstacles and hurdles because what we're trying to do is hard. And when you start feeling like other people aren't, the people who are around you aren't helping you, and they're the people who should be helping you, when you start thinking that way, you start getting resentful towards those people. Whether you know it or not, whether you want to admit it, it's subconscious, it's probably unconscious. And then you decide to go and have a few beers with these people, and then you start letting everybody know where they fall short of your high ideal. So, I hope this explains why the personality traits are so important to understand. Because if you're going to hire somebody to do anything for you, if you're going to hire an employee, you need to know what personality traits they have. And you can actually start kind of telling, like, it's a matter of certain questions that you can ask somebody. You can start figuring out, is this person neurotic? If they're extrovert, they're probably not very neurotic, because extroversion is synonymous with positive emotion. Neuroticism is synonymous with negative emotion. Do you want to be around somebody in business who's full of negative emotion? No. You need optimism. And so if they're extrovert, that means they're probably assertive and they're enthusiastic. Those are the opposites of withdrawal and volatility, I would say. Like, literally, like the complete freaking opposite. So if you're going to be in business with somebody, and this is why, this is a perfect example. I'm going to go full circle now. Why did I hire Katie to help with the social media? Because she actually helped out with my very first one of my very first music videos, because her friends, she's friends with the same people who help with the photography and the video stuff, Heidi and Derek Laws. But because I've already kind of like known her a little bit, when I found out she did the social media thing, I was very intrigued because I already knew that she's got the agreeableness thing going. So she's polite and she's got compassion, okay? And she's also enthusiastic. So she's excitable, and she is assertive because she does this for herself now. She does this social media marketing thing, and she freelances. She's a freelancer. So there you go. She's open. I would say she's an open person because she loves creativity, and she loves helping creative people. So she's open to new ideas and new experiences. Okay, so that's like all good, man. Those are all attributes in the business world, I would say. And then you've got conscientiousness. Okay, so I would say that she's probably high in conscientiousness. Probably more than me. I could almost guarantee she's. I'm sure that her house is more orderly. I'm sure her life is in ways. She's a girl, so she probably likes things to be neater. Okay, and so that's a really good attribute. Orderliness, and then being hardworking, being self-motivated. That's really good. And then on the neurotic front, I would say that she's low in neuroticism because she is always I don't know, I think she's always just like she has like a optimistic glow about her. So like I said, if they're enthusiastic, then the neuroticism trait probably isn't even, they're probably pretty low in neuroticism. So the two traits that you basically need for the recipe, the combination for success, is you got to be a high in openness, but you also have to be high in conscientiousness. And this is the rub. This is the thing that's really interesting about this. Openness and conscientiousness are not correlated. They're not correlated at all. Okay? They have nothing to do with each other, which fascinated me. You guys want to know why most artists and musicians can't make it? It's because the artist will be too high in openness, and they'll be way too low in conscientiousness. So an artist, like that typical stereotypical artist that we think of, somebody that just wants to do art, and then they have to hire a promoter, or they have to hire a broker to actually sell their art because they can't negotiate for themselves, and they're so damn low in conscientiousness that they're really just not hardworking. They don't go by schedules, they don't go by clocks, they don't, which really just comes off as disrespectful towards other people's schedules. So yeah, artists are pains in the asses. They are. Because they're not high enough in conscientiousness. The magic recipe to be a successful person: be open, be an entrepreneur, so you're high in creativity, and you've got a decent IQ, so you're a good problem solver. Okay? So creativity and problem solving are the same. How can you solve problems if you're not a creative thinker? You have to think outside the box. But guess what? Just because you can think of a great idea doesn't mean you know how to implement that great idea. And what a lot of people do? They come up with great ideas and then they sit on them and they never execute them. You know why? Because they don't know how. Because you actually have to have conscientiousness. You actually have to be hardworking, diligent, and you have to be somewhat orderly, maybe more orderly than you are. Because if you're not orderly at all, moving yourself up about 10% to 20% in orderliness is actually a magnitude of difference. So if you want to be successful, remember openness, creativity, and intellect. Creativity and problem solving. So let's just get rid of the word intellect, because that shit, I know that shit makes people mad. It makes people mad because nobody wants to be called dumb. But if you were willing to call yourself dumb a little more often, then you would be going, hey, realistically, I'm kind of dumb, and there's some things that I can do to make myself a little less dumb. See? That's a beautiful thing. That's you being a problem solver for yourself, even. So, creativity and consciousness, openness or creativity and being conscientious. So, you can come up with the great ideas, but then you can also implement them. And the thing that we see with very, very successful people, very successful entrepreneurs, they're not just the people who can create the businesses, but they can, they can implement the ideas, and they also know where their weaknesses are to delegate certain responsibilities that they just know they're not good at. So you got to be able to be humble, and you got to say, I have weaknesses. And you got to be humble, and you got to say, hey, I'm dumb in this department. And it's not up to others to help me. It's actually just up to me to figure it out. And it's going to be painstaking. Once you figure it out, you actually have just built your confidence, because now you're going, hey, nobody helped me. I figured it out myself. What other shit can I figure out myself? And then you start realizing, oh, I'm unstoppable. The only one that's stopping me is me. When you start getting over those hurdles and obstacles that are blocking you, you start realizing it's you that's blocking you, and that you are the answer to your problems. All right. So that's the big 5 personality types, guys. I really enjoyed this one. This was an episode that I've been wanting to do for months now, and I just keep getting sidetracked with other things and other topics. There's a lot that I want to talk about. I really appreciate you guys hanging in there with me on this one. I know that I get like I said, people don't really enjoy being around me a lot, because people don't really want to be around somebody who's intense. And I don't know how to shut it off. I'm not going to apologize for it either, and I'm not going to stop being intense. People who are annoyed by me, I'm glad, because I just want them to bounce off of me. And the people who aren't annoyed by me, and people who actually look at my disposition as an attribute, those are people that I feel like are actually they are accepting. They're not just accepting of me, but maybe they actually like me, right? Because they're like, hey, I actually like the fact that this guy won't shut the fuck up. Like, I like that. That means that you are open, because you're open to new ideas, and you're open to new experiences. So I hope that the things I've said today didn't upset anybody. But if it did, I'm kind of glad, because there's probably things in that you need to look at. So I hope this helps. And stay tuned, because thinking here very, very soon, I am going to be dropping the trailer for the new movie, Caution, Funky Kids at Play. The movie is finished, and I am putting the trailer together right now, and I'm just really looking forward to dropping that on you guys here, and it should be, I think the trailer will be coming out here within the next week. Okay, so it could be any time between tomorrow and like a week from now. So you guys stay tuned for that, and thanks for letting me rant about the personality traits. You guys need to know this shit. This way you can really avoid problematic people, and then you can understand what personality traits it really takes for a person to be a helpful and useful person to your goals and visions. I'm not talking about people. You shouldn't look at people as like you're like a commodity, but in a way, it's like, do they add value to what you're doing, or do they take the value away? Because if they're sitting on a fence, trust me, there's no such thing as sitting on the fence. They're devaluing you by sitting on the fence. So it's either they devalue you and they devalue what you're doing, or they are bringing value to what you're doing. And the only way that you're going to really be able to know and tell is if you understand these personality traits. If you start seeing somebody, so if you start picking up on somebody being more and more neurotic every time you're around them, that means they're chock full of negative emotion. Get away from them. All right, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Love ya. Peace.